And let's say you want to make 2D animation. So you are going to choose the 2D animation workflow. I'll talk more about all these workflows in this video, hopefully. Let's say we want to do 3D sculpting. Think of sculpting like maybe for those who are familiar with how to make models, real life models, using clay. So you are probably familiar with sculpting in computer graphics world. And we have VFX for video effects. If you want to add effects to video, let's say you want to edit a video, you're going to choose the video editing. So these are the workflows that we have in Blender by default. So let's say you want to change any of them, you can just go to the splash screen and uh, go on down whatever workflow we want. And we also have our recent files over here, and you can recover the last session, which is hopefully what you are using, what you are working on before you hit on the quit, before you quit Blender. So that's what the recover last session is for. And we have what's new, that will just take you to the website so you can know what's new in the current Blender fashion. And we have donate if you want to donate. And that's it for this splash screen. And now let us talk about the file or menu. And under it we have new. If you want to create a new file, you have to choose between you have to choose one among these workflow. We have general. We've talked about this in this splash screen. The new file is also the same as file new. And we have the general. You can choose 2D animation, and we can use this to make 2D movies. And we have sculpting, and we can use this to basically sculpt our models. And we can retopo later, topologize. And I'll talk about this in the futures, but for now, that's sculpting. We have VFX, that's for video effects. So you can load your video, add effect, choose where you are going to add effect, and you can also do motion tracking and so on over here. We have the video editing. And let's say you make a video and you want to add some extra details before publishing your video. That's what the video editing is for. But for 3D works in general, you're going to choose the general workflow. And that's it for the file new. And let's say you save your Blender file and you want to open it, you can use the open or control. So let's try it out. Let's save this file on the document. And over here we can choose the name of our Blender file, and let's just name it example 1. And if you click on save Blender file over here, it's going to automatically append the .blend to our file, and we can click on it again to save it, or you can just press enter in your keyboard. And now we've saved this file as example. We have it over here, example, and this location. And we also have the current Blender version that we are using. And that's it for we've saved the Blender file. But let's say we want to open the file that we've just saved. You can just go under the open and or control, and we are going to navigate to the file that we've saved, and we are going to open it back. So let's say, okay, to best explain this, we are going to give this a particular color. So if you don't have this material slot already, and you have this instead, I've explained this in the previous tutorial. You can just click on new, and you can just assign your material like that. And to save, we are going to use Ctrl S, and let's now open a new file. And let's say we don't want to work on this file, we want to work on our uh, previously saved file. To open it, we are going to use our Ctrl O, and this is the location of the file, and we are going to double click it, or there are different ways you can open it by just clicking it and clicking open over here. It's going to perform the same thing. And now we can test if, and yes, we've got the correct file. It also shows it over here, example 1. So that's it for how to open a file. And you can open a recently saved file over here. And I'm not going to talk about this revert, because it just takes you back to uh, some the previously the previous state of your file. Basically, if I'm correct about that, we have the recover. And what the recover does is that, let's say, um I'll probably just explain it. I'm not going to show you the example. When you click on recover, we have two buttons over here, the last session and the autosave. And for the last session, that's what it will load. It will load uh the last file that you open before you close Blender, the state that that file is. So let's say you forgot to save, so you can just load the last session. I also have the autosave, and the autosave is, I think, saves the file every, I think, 2 minutes. So every 2 minutes your file is being saved to some temporary, no, I just say it's permanent file, but still temporary, but the file is being saved to on your desktop somewhere. uh so when you click on autosave, so it's going to show you a particular autosave. So you can just check the time and the date and make sure that it matches with what you are working on. So this is a dice that I'm probably working on in July, and I've already saved it to my desktop, but Blender also has its own saved version, so that let's say I forgot to save before I close, I can just recover the file over here. And that's it for the recover. And we have save, which is the same thing as our Ctrl S. Save increment is, let's say we've saved our example 1, and we want to make many variations. So we have example 1, but we want to have example 2, so example 3, and so on. You can use the save increment. We also have save as. Let's say we've saved, I want to save, uh we've made changes and we want to save our file as using other name. We don't want to use the same name as the previously saved name. So what we are going to use is, we are going to use save as, and we are going to choose a new name for our file. And that is for the save as. Save copy, probably just duplicate the file, if I'm right, and it's going to save it somehow. And we have the link and append that I'm going to talk about in the future. We have the importing and exporting. I'll also talk about that in the future. And we have all this external data cleanup and the default. We are going to talk about this later. We have this load factory settings. So let's say you've messed up with Blender setting, you can load the default settings. And to quit Blender, you can just click on quit or Control Q, and that's the preferred way of quitting Blender than going over to the top over here and quitting. And that is for the file. We have the edit, and the edit, we have the menu search that we are using that we can access using spacebar or by clicking on F3. So access the search functionality. And we have the rename active item and the batch name that I will talk about very soon, which we do using F2 or Control F2. So we have all this shortcut that Blender gave us as the hint. Blender already gave us as the hint. So we have preferences, and when you click on preferences, we got this window. You probably be in interface by default. In interface, you can make changes to the main interface of Blender, which is the UI. All the Just think of the UI as all the buttons, all the spaces that make up the Blender. So that is our UI, everything we're looking at. So you can change the resolution. So if you want it to be smaller, or you want it to be bigger, so I'll just leave it at 1. And you can change the line width. The line width um, is best explained using an example. Let's say we choose 10, and I'm actually going to look okay, for where we can actually see the line width. It's like the line width is the borders around the UIs, the different components in our UIs. So look closely to the interface, look at the border the interface has, and let's choose 10. And you can see that our interface button over here has less border because we give it a 10 line width, and this is like the medium, which is the default, and you can just leave it as it is. And here we can disable if we want the splash screen to display when we open our file, which I say that I will explain. So we can just disable it. We don't need this splash screen at all. And we have all these settings. We have this developer extras for experimental features and so on like that. But what you might actually find useful is this color picker type. When we are choosing our color earlier over here, if you don't like this color picker, you can change the color picker to something else. So we have circle, HSV, circle, HSL. HSV is just hue saturation and value, but let's say you want hue saturation and lightness, which I think is actually the same thing. But we have this square, which are obviously different. And for the square, I believe we've worked with basically color pickers like this before. You can just choose this like the value, and this is like the hue and the saturation. So you are going to choose your hue, and you are going to choose the level of the saturation. And this is where you can choose the color type that you want, color picker type that you want. And let's just leave it as circle HSB, the default. And let's say you will forget what the default is of uh any value. Let's say like the resolution scale or the line width, you forgot the default. You can just right click and choose reset to default, and it's going to reset that property to the default property. So we have the themes. The themes is where we can use to change what theme we are using in our current layout. So the theme has to do is the colors of the viewport, the colors of everything's how how things looks. So we are using Blender dark for now, but you can choose Blender light. You've already seen when I choose Blender light, everything changes, and we have the deep gray, and we have so on and so forth like that. You can also you can even install themes outside of Blender by downloading it and clicking on this install button, and you can also make your own. For example, when I click on this plus, it's going to duplicate my currently selected, and I'm not going to explain all of this because you really ever need to make your custom theme. But let's say you don't like Blender dark, you can search for a theme or make yours, and that is for the themes. We have the viewport. You can just leave all the settings over here as it is, because I think it has to do with the viewport, which is our 3D viewport over here, and you can just leave everything as it is. And you have the lighting. You have the light. We'll talk about this in the future. You have editing, animation. What I want to talk about for now is the add-ons. The add-ons, actually, think of it as what we can use to add extra features to our current Blender project. And for example, let's say you want to make a landscape. There is a Blender add-on to make a landscape. You can make it by hand, but we are better off using a an add-on specifically made for that. And there are a lot of Blender add-ons. Some are free and some are paid. So we have all these uh, add-ons that came with Blender for now. But let's say you want to install an add-on, you can just click on this install, and we can use that to install an add-on. And the input tab is basically for the input. Also, if you notice that what I'm talking about, some features that I'm talking about is probably not working, maybe with the mouse, you can go under the mouse tab over here, and you're going to click on this emulate 3-button mouse, and that's it. If what I'm talking about doesn't work for you, yeah, probably that is due to this not being enabled. Maybe you don't have a 3-button mouse. And let's talk about the navigation. And under this navigation, actually, we're not going to talk much about it, but we talk about this fly and walk in very soon in this tutorial. And we have the key map. This is where we can set uh okay, these are the settings that Blender gave us when we first download and open Blender. And here we can search for a key map, like the keyboard shortcut for performing a particular action. For example, let's search for I think add and I'm actually looking for, yeah, I think I'm looking for this what we use to add objects to our scene, which is the add functionality. and we can already saw that we are using shift A to add object to our scene, and over here this is where the shortcut is. We can change it if we don't want to use shift A to add object to our scene. And when you are assigning a keyboard shortcut to a functionality, make sure that there is no functionality using that shortcut, because for example, if I click on it, it's asking me to press any key, and let's say I'll use the left mouse button. And now when we go to back to our 3D viewport and I left click, we can add an object instead of selecting an object. So left click now work as adding, and obviously we don't want this. We are never going to want this. So that's just an example. And let's say you've changed it and you want to reset it back to its default, you can just click on this restore, and now everything is back to normal. And we have the system. Under the system, we can change our render devices for the cycles. I'll talk about cycles renderer in the future, but right now we have this memory and limit, and this has to do with uh our memory. We have these undo steps. Make sure you have this global undo selected or ticked, and our undo steps, that's the number of undo that we can perform and a single operation. Let's say just move an object around, just move it around, just move it around. And now let us say that we want to undo what you are doing, and now I've undid it like eight times, 10 times, and I just click on undoing. And when I reach 32, I can't undo anymore. So that's it about the undo. And to enable the premises, we can use our control and this comma. And now we want to make sure that the undo steps is actually something around 100 or above 100. So we can just use 100, because you are going to be using undo a lot, and it's very very important. And I think here we have the autosave, which I told you before that um by default it saves every 2 minutes. You can change it if you want it to save maybe every 1 minute and so on like that, or every 5 minutes, but let's just leave it as default. The autosave feature is actually very very important in Blender, and there are some tutorials that claim that Blender doesn't have autosave, but Blender does have autosave, and this is where you can enable it by default. And we have the 5 parts, which I'm not going to explain by now, and that's all about the preferences. And we have the render. We want to render our image or our animation or the audio, and let's say we want to fuse the render and the animation before actually rendering it. We can use this. And we have the window. Let's say we want a new Blender window, or we want to want the full screen, wants to put the full screen, and so on. So that's all about the window. We have the help, where you can actually get helps. For example, we have the manual. Okay, I'll just close this. We have the manual, we have tutorials, we have support, which is very very important. And now when we've discussed about the main Blender headers, we're going to talk about workspaces and editors, and we can uh, how we can resize editors. First of all, before we talk about workspaces, let's talk about editors. So editors are probably, let's call it areas, little areas in Blender that make up a particular workspace. What I mean by this is, for example, where we are, this place this is an editor. This the 3D viewport editor, and to change an editor, any editor type, you can go over to the editor top left corner over here, so this editor type button, and you can change it to something else. For example, let's say we want to change it to outliner editors, which is the same as the editor over here. This is also an editor. This is an editor, and we also have an editor over here. And let's talk about how we can resize an editor. To shrink or enlarge an editor, you can go over to its border, and over here we go over to the right border of this outliner. Let's change it to 3D viewport. We'll talk more about all these editors in the futures. In the future, for the 3D viewport, we can use it for modeling. And to resize, let's just go over to the right border, and when we mouse over it, the arrow change to this double arrow. When we left click and drag, we can resize the editor. You can see that as we move left, the properties editor, the viewport editor shrinkens, and both the outliner and the properties editor get enlarged. And if we move to the right, the opposite happens. And the same thing for uh, uh moving an editor up and down. So now this is the timeline editor, so we use it for performing basic animation. I'll talk more about all these editors very soon. So that's how we resize an editor. So now let's say we want to create a new editor. And to create a new editor, you can just go to the topmost left of the particular editor, and we can from there we can just left click, and we are going to drag. And here you can the direction that you move your mouse to, a new editor of the same type of the editor that you select is going to get created. And from there you can change the editor type to something else, and make sure that uh, the direction that you move, you can see that when we mouse to the topmost left corner, the arrow changes to this pointer, to this crosshair, actually, sorry, to this crosshair. And when you left click, direction that you move your arrow to, that's where the new editor is going to spawn. So let's say I move it horizontally instead of vertically. We can see that we have our new editor, and you can create new editor, any new editor, using this way. And you can just change the type of the editor over here, and that's it for how we can add new editors. But let's say we've add new editors, but we want to join two editors together. And to do that, using our make the same crosshair, and just as I've explained earlier, go over to the top leftmost corner, and when you left click, instead of dragging into by the horizontally or vertically, we're going to drag outward to the editors that we want to merge with. And for now, this we want to merge it with uh, this editor. And we notice that when we before we release our left click, um the other editors is being grid, which means that editor will be deleted and this new editor will take over. And if you left click and mouse over to the other editor, the opposite happens. And to explain it, let's just split the editors, and we're going to change the editor types of this to image editor. And now let's say I want uh, I want to merge both of these editors into image editor. About I use the same thing, and now it's going to become an image editor. And the opposite will happen for if we mouse over to the right. And so we are going to split everything back into what it is before. And so that's all about how we can create or delete an editor. So for now, we can actually delete um sorry for that. We can actually delete this timeline editor, and because we don't need this for now. And let's say there are other ways we can, yeah, there's other ways we can create new editors by just going to the editor header over here, and we can left click and we can choose what we want to split the new editors into. We have vertical split and horizontal split, and that's the same for moving this crosshair after we left click, moving it to the horizontally or vertically. That's the same functionality. And if you are not getting this shortcut that I'm getting, ensure that you are at this topmost, which is the header. And I prefer using this because uh, probably not all editors will have headers, but most editors have headers. This is the header. You just left click. For the property editor, for the outliner editor, this is the header. And for the timeline, it also has an header. And you can choose what you want to split into, vertical split or horizontal split. Or you can choose the close area if you want to close that particular area. And that's it about resizing editors. And now I'll just give you guys a brief guide into the different editors that we have by default. So this is the 3D viewport editor. This is where we'll be spending most of our time, because this is where we are going to be editing our primitives to form our main model. Let's say we want to model a sword. You can do it using the 3D viewport. And we have the outliner. This is where we can see the files and folders that we are working on, of the scene that we are working on. And these are actually different from the files and folders of the main file manager that we have in our system. So this is just relative to Blender. So for example, we have the cube. If I select it, it got highlighted over here. And we have the lamp. um, this is the lamp. This is our current lamp. I explained this briefly in the last tutorial. We have the camera. And let's say we want to rename our cube. We can go back to the outliner and we can rename our cube to match maybe our model name. Let's say we want to model a sword. And you can click on enter, and now the cube has been renamed to a sword. The faster way to rename an object is by using F2, and we can choose the particular object name over there. And also here you can choose if you want to hide an object by clicking this eye icon. This is for hiding it in the 3D viewport, and this is for hiding it when we render the object. So let's say we have this in the 3D viewport, but when we render the image or the animation, we don't want this particular model to display. You can just click on this camera icon over here, and when we render it, it's not going to display. In fact, to show you an example, um okay, we can resize this using Alt G, and if we render this, we are not going to saw this cube because we've disabled it when we rendered it. Okay, we can see that we don't have the image of the cube when we render. That's because we need to enable it over here. And now we have our cube. I don't worry if you are not getting this color. I've explained how we can assign a color to an object in the last tutorial, and that's it. That's all about the outliner editor. And we have the properties editor, and under the properties editor we have a lot of tabs. The first one is want to use a lot, which is the active toolbar. And right now we have the select. You can choose whether you want the main select mode, or you want other select mode that is that exists under the select box. And for the move tool, we can see that we have orientation, and we have the drag, and you can also choose what it affects, maybe the origins, the location, or the parent over here. And for now, we have the object properties over here, which shows us the location, rotation, and the scale of the object. Okay, let's say we want to scale on the object uh, by twice, and this is actually something that I haven't talked about when we discuss about moving, rotating, and scaling, and that's peculiar to shortcut key. Let's say we want to rotate uh, in a particular degree, you can just press the number of that degree. Let's say we want to rotate 30 degree, so I can just click R and press 30, and now we have our objects are rotated 30 degree. And for scaling, we can also choose what we want to scale, and this also works for direction. As you want to scale in X, we want to scale it twice, and I can hit 2, and now the object is scaled twice. And the same thing for moving. And now we can already saw that when we scale, let's say we scale our object twice, now the scale of our object is twice as big in all the directions over here. And let's say we want this actually the current scale to be our main scale. So don't forget what I've explained earlier. You can use Ctrl A to apply the scale, and now this is the default scale. This is our object scaled. This is our object that is not scaled at all. And the same thing for the rotation. When we apply the rotation, this becomes the main rotation, and the same thing for the location. But for now, uh, just know that these settings over here are related to our object setting. And let's scroll down. We also have the material. I've explained about this before. And the timeline, what we use the timeline for is for basic animation. And to make an animation keyframe, you can just hit on I, and this is at location 0, and let's say at location 60. At location 60, let's say our cube moves up, and and let's say we scale it down, and we hit on I again. And now when we hit on play, let's drag it back to 0. When we hit on play, we get our animation. So what we use this for is for making a quick animation. So because to make animation we are going to use more than this timeline editor over here. But for now, we are not going to talk about animations in Blender. That's for the future tutorials. Right now, before we end this section of the tutorial, let's talk about how we can join our two objects into one. Let's say we have a cube and a sphere. I want to merge these two models into one. And how we do that is by using Ctrl J in Blender. When we use Ctrl J, our model is now merged to one, and we can see that the object origin is not at the center. To ensure that the object origin is at center, we can right click and choose set origin, and under this sub menu we can click on origin to center of mass, either surface or volume, the one that gave you the desired outcome. Or you can choose origin to geometry. And for now, this isn't actually what we want, so we can just use our center of mass surface. And yeah, I think that's the center of our object. And now when we move around, it moves it as if they are one, because actually they are now one object. So okay, now there are two. Don't forget, the last object is what this all other selected objects we merge into. So let's say, don't forget, this object is named as sword. When we join, and this is the active selection, uh, our object is now has the name of sword, because this is the active selection, and all other objects are merged into the active selection. And that's all about merging two objects into one. And before we end, let's talk about parenting objects. Let's say we have a cube, and let's say we have a cone. And how the parents and children work is that when a parent is translated, moved, rotated, or scaled, it's going to perform that same operation to all his children. So but the children can perform any operation, can be translated however they want, and that's not going to affect the parents. So what happens is that the children actually is going to inherit the translate of the parent, like their position and so on. So to better explain this, ensure that the parent is what is last selected, and the children are those that are selected. You can have more than one children. And now when we hit control P, we have our set parent to, and we're going to use our object. If it's giving you weird behavior, you can use object keep transform, but if it's not, you can just use object. And now if I move the parent, don't forget the active selection is the parent. If I move the parent, the children are going to move along. What I mean by the children is, let's say we have more than the cone. Say we have the icosphere, and if, now if we move the cube, both the icosphere and the cone are going to move along with the parent, because they are the children of that parent. And the same thing for rotating, they are going to rotate along the parent, and the same thing for scaling. But if we move the children, that's not going to affect the parent at all, or any other object at all for the matter. And that's all about parenting in Blender. And before we end the tutorial, we work on a simple project, and we also talk about the current object origin and the 3D cursor. When we add any object to our scene, the object is going to get added at the location of the 3D cursor. And to change the location of the 3D cursor, is the cursor over here at the origin 000, but we can change the position of the cursor by shift, and we can right click, and the position of our cursor got changed, and we can add a new object, and it's going to get added at the new position of the cursor. Now this is actually very useful, and this is actually what we are going to use to build our practical example. Now we've created a okay, let's delete everything, and to set the cursor to the origin, we just shift and S and choose cursor to world origin. And now we are going to add a cube and move it along the Z axis. And to duplicate this cube, you can use Ctrl D, and oh, sorry, you can use Shift D, sorry, to duplicate it. And we are going to duplicate it along the S axis, and we can scale it down like that. And but this is actually not what we are going to do for now. What we are going to do is let's go to the top view, and we're going to shift right click to set the cursor to the top of our cube, and we are going to add a UV sphere. And now we can move our UV sphere up a bit, and we're also going to go to the left view, to the right view first, and let's add um a cylinder, and we're going to rotate the cylinder Y and 90 degree. Oh, sorry, okay, R Y, and we are going to hit 90. And now we've rotated our cylinder 90 degree. Again, we are going to scale it scale the object, and we're going to scale it up along the x-axis. You can move it to properly position it, and now we are going to duplicate this, and we're going to move it along the x-axis to the other side, and you can just position it around. I think that looks good. Now actually let's talk about how we can mirror an object. We have this let's say this left hand, which is obviously funny, and let's say we don't want this left hand, we don't want to duplicate this left hand and just move it around. We want to flip it to the opposite side, and to do that you can duplicate the object first, and after that we're going to use control M, and we are going to choose the particular direction that you want to flip the object to. So I'll duplicate the object, I will use control M, and I will choose the x-axis. But now we are getting this weird behavior. That's because this object origin needs to be at the center of the need to be at the center origin. And to do that, we can first of all set the cursor to the word origin over there, and now you can set the origin of this new object to the 3D cursor, and now this is where the object origin is, at the 3D cursor. And now we can perform the mirroring. We are going to choose the x-axis, and now it should work perfectly. And we're going to do the same thing for the legs. Instead of cylinder, let's just add a cube, and let's scale it down, and we're going to scale it in the z-axis, and we're going to move it down. Just use whatever works for you. And again, are you going to use mirroring? Don't forget, first of all, we need to set the cursor to word origin, and right click in the object, origin to 3D cursor, and now we are going to use control M. I'm going to use the x-axis, and first, don't forget, we need to duplicate the object first, and now it should work perfectly. And now we have our little human person. Now we can just move our object around. You can scale it, whatever you fit that works perfectly for you. And I think this looks good. Now we are going to use what we've explained earlier, which is join the object, but we are not going to join the object. We are going to parent the object, and the head is going to be the parent, and all the bodies are going to be the children, and we can just use that. And now we can move the object around. Now we can apply colors to our model. So I'll just choose random color for all the objects. Make sure that you are in either the viewport shading or the rendered um make sure that you are in either material preview or rendered shading mode. And now I just go to material preview over here. I give it red dance, and I give this blue, and its legs are also going to be red. And now we can set how we are going to short the object. And let's go over here. We can move the lights around, as I've explained in the previous tutorial. Yeah, we can just move the light to the front like this. I think that looks good. We can duplicate it. Don't forget the front light, and we are going to set it to a completely different color. Let's give it blue, and this power to maybe 300, because they just add a subtle effect to our lighting. I think that looks good. And now we can render the image. And don't forget, we have to save. Saving is very important when you're working on your project. And this is our example one, our project, and we will work on more projects in the future. This is actually a very silly project, but that's it for the tutorial. I hope you've gained a thing or two, and if you do so, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. And if you're feeling generous, you can support us on uh, you can support us by buying us a coffee or joining us on our Patreon. Thanks so much for watching the tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.